What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Shooting the Shit Uncensored. It is I, the dad bod god, the bald, the beard, and the fucking beautiful Piers Austin. And once again, I'm joined by that handsome devil himself. Take it away.
I am the Italian stallion, the king ding-a-ling, the man with the three largest legs in professional wrestling. I am Robbie, the original greaser, Zucco. And I'm glad to be here again. I'm really excited tonight, Piers. Really excited.
I'm excited too, man. We got the Canadian Hellraiser, Jason Helton, joining us.
You know, there's only been two scams in life: Loch Ness Monster and Canada. No, just kidding. Listen, Jason Helton, the gentleman that we have coming on, is a dear friend of mine. To me, he's been there, done it. And he's one of those guys that just has like a wealth full of knowledge. I've had so many great matches with this guy. And not only is he a great worker, but he's a wonderful friend.
Well, before we get into that conversation, Mr. Zucco, let's take a quick second to thank one of our sponsors, and that is sleefs.com. That's SLEEFS, sleefs.com. If you or someone you know is an athlete, you need to go and check out Sleefs. They've got all your athletic wear and gear covered. They've got armbands, compression pants, compression shorts, headgears, mouth guards, boots, and they've even got those dirty boxes that you always hear me raving about. These dirty boxes stay dry, they stay fresh, and they've got funky designs at the front, so when the belt buckle comes undone at the end of the day, your partner's laughing on what's on the front of the boxes and not what's inside them. So guys, go and check out sleeps.com and those dirty boxes. Use promo code MWAPOD to get a 10% discount on your final purchase. You know, Robbie, on the channel, we've been having some amazing conversations with a lot of amazing people. Just recently, I had on Chris Lytle. We've had on, Bobby from over the States, Mr. Bobby Blaze, who's now a Colonel. We've spoken to Mark Mercedes. We've spoken to some of the top people in the world of professional wrestling. So wherever you are finding us, please make sure you like, share, subscribe, leave us a comment, share, tell your friends, tell your enemies, tell your cousins, tell your aunties, tell everybody. And if you're finding us on a podcast platform, please give us a 5-star review. But anyway, Mr. Zucco, let's get into our conversation with the Canadian Hellraiser, Jason. Yeah. And we're live on Tuesday night. What's going on, gentlemen?
How are you there, Jason? How are you, Piers?
I'm good. I'm good.
Fantastic. You're both
Jason,
well.
thank you for... Absolutely, man. Same. So are you. Jason, thank you so much for joining us, man. It's a pleasure to have you on. Getting into the show straight away, man, you sort of been in the wrestling business since the late 80s, over the time, what has been like your thoughts on like how the business has progressed from when you started to what you see now as from the business?
Well, first, I just like to everybody in Melbourne. I just wanted to shout out some condolences for the loss of Bass this week. He was a great guy, and I just wanted to mention that he'll be missed. But as for your question, I think it's become like when I first started off, like I'd get stretched in the dungeon because they wanted you to know how the holds felt and that you have to be tough and how to react because these moves actually hurt. But it's kind of evolved into more of a stunt show where it's more of a performance instead of a competition, which I think is a bit of a, then it's kind of become a, anyone can get in. Like in the 80s, it's like, you got stretched or you got pounded on, you got beat up for like 5-minute matches for like the first 6 months of your wrestling, like 5 nights a week to see if you stay around.
Yeah.
Now it's more, hey, you can do that fancy move, you can be on the show without learning any psychology or I always thought, like, I don't mind small people. Like you don't have to, like, Dynamite Kid was not a big person, but he was a fit and strong person. Where if he hopped out of the ring, it went like, oh well, he was a scary man if he was coming at you. Like a lot of these guys is like they do fancy stuff, but it's like if they got out of the ring, it's like I'm not really worried because it's part of the show. He's only like 5'10" and 180 pounds, which that's the average size male. It's like even Conor McGregor is like, he's not the biggest guy, but you kind of like, do I really want to have a go at him? No, because he's fit and he looks like he knows what he's doing. But there's like not really too much emphasis on fit or looking like you know what you're doing. It's more like, oh well, I got a funny catchphrase or I got a cool move, and that gets me in, which is a little disappointing to me.
Do you feel like that's sort of like the art, like as far as like the pro wrestling, because as you said, at the start when people sort of break into the wrestling, it's almost like they're trying to force you out or to see how mentally tough you are to survive. Do you feel now that sort of style of training is completely left and it's just more of a free for all?
Yeah, I'm not putting anybody down because you need new people, but like I kind of got in because my dad used to wrestle for Stu Hart, and so I kind of had an in there because like, well, I'll train both the father and the son. That'll be cool. And I went out and I'd known some of the guys that said, like, let him give it a try. But I got stretched just like anybody else did. And I had the matches where I came out with handprints on my front and back for a week because they just beat the crap out of me to see if I could, I'd like, probably could stock out a hardware store with all the wood that was broken over my back in the first couple of years. But I stayed and then they started letting me do stuff. Like my first matches were like, do you know how to bump? All right, I'll tell you when. And that was it. No comeback, no nothing. It's like my comeback was move.
Yeah.
I get out
so
of the way.
They used to filter you guys out, is what you're saying. They used to just they didn't worry about the actual business side of things when it came to the wrestlers. It was the actual the shows that made the money, not the actual schools. They were just preparing the guys, and they didn't care if they had 30 people there and only like 2 stayed. So now it's become business.
Yeah, like nobody really ever beat me up, like per se, like held me down and kicked my teeth in or anything. But like the matches were kind of like I wrestled the Angel of Death, who was like 6'9" and 320, and I was like 6'2", 185. And it was like my move was when I come in to pick you up, you punch me in the stomach. One punch to the stomach. And that's all I got in like 5 minutes. And he threw me all the way around. Like I think I bounced off every wall in the building. Got slammed on the floor, got a handprint from like my collarbone to my bottom of my ribs because his hands were so big. And everybody go, ooh, because like he just slapped the crap out of me. And I said, thank you, good match. And then the next, like, then he'd give me a little hint on how, like, Jerry Moore was the best for that. I love Jerry. He's like still around. He's like 75 living in Canada or something like that. But he'd beat the snot out of me. And then he'd come back and he'd give me hints on how to do it better next time. So it's like, all right, there's going to be a next time because he taught me more. And then, like, my first match with him was probably 2.5 minutes, and he beat me with a splash off the top rope. And then I wrestled him all over, like, Alberta and BC for, 6 years before I moved to Australia? No, 8 years. So I probably wrestled like 100 of those 8 years.
That's
And
insane.
every time he just beat the snot out of me. But every time I got better.
Yeah.
And like the last match we had from like a 2-minute squash was like an 18-minute back and forth. He still won. I really would have liked to stay in Canada, so he would have like built me up where he thought I could beat him.
Go over him. Yeah. So going back, you said your father was trained by Stu Hart. Like, tell us a bit about your dad, like, and his wrestling career.
Well, he was more of an amateur wrestler. He was like undefeated through high school and only lost once in college. So what's that? Like 9 years undefeated in wrestling.
Wow.
So he's actually really a fantastic wrestler. And he was like a CFL Hall of Fame defensive lineman. So he was like 6'2", 260, and bench pressed 500 pounds, and just was a machine of a man. And so he wrestled. I think he wrestled for 2 off seasons in like 1970 and 1971.
Like professionally, you mean? Or?
Yeah, for Stampede Wrestling.
Yeah,
Wow.
right. And how did you like? Do you remember as a kid going and like being around that?
Well, I remember the first time my dad we were living in Winnipeg at the time, and the football stadium was right across the street from the hockey stadium. And I used to go during summer holidays. I used to go all the time with my dad to football practice and run around and be a menace. And they were finishing after one practice, and all the guys were really excited because the AWA was coming to the arena next door that night. And they all wanted to go. Yeah. And so they asked my dad if I could come. It's like, well, yeah, just like, so I didn't even go with my dad. I went with the football players.
Oh, wow.
And there was like Jesse Ventura and Adrian Adonis, the East-West connection, and Mad Dog Vachon. And the main event was Nick Bockwinkel against Jumping Jim Brunzell.
Such good times.
They went for an hour draw and just hooked in the whole entire time. And it was like, I just loved it so much. Like then it's like, we didn't stay in Winnipeg for too much longer after that. My dad retired and we went back to Calgary and we found Stampede Wrestling. And that was like Dynamite and Davey and Bruce Hart and Chris Benoit and Ben Bassrab and all these all these great names.
Did your dad even train you a little bit? Or did he kayfabe it the whole time?
Yeah, no, he was like, he wasn't a big fan of the wrestling. I mean, it was just one of those things that he could do. Yeah. But yeah, he wasn't a big fan of the business. Too much travel, too much time away. But a couple of dodgy people here and there that you meet. So it's like,
what, there's really carnies in the wrestling business? No.
I know, it's shocking, isn't it? I hope I'm not giving away too many secrets.
Not at all. But you know what? You mentioned like going to that show and seeing a 60-minute draw, right? So yes. Can a 60-minute time limit draw, can a 60-minute Broadway be done in 2022? Let me throw it out there to you guys.
I don't think so, because actually Rob can verify the story because he's the one that told it to me. Apparently, like I always try and going to help out the new guys at the school and stuff. But apparently one of them they always get the but. It's like they listen for about 6 months and then it's like, yeah, but I saw this in Japan, or yeah, but I saw John Cena do it this way. And it's like, well, the difference is he's making millions on TV, you're just learning, so he's allowed to slide a little bit, but you got to do it the right way. And Rob was telling me how somebody was telling me that, or telling him that he didn't think like the dungeon training was relevant to wrestling anymore. And it's like that was really disappointing. That it's like, man, if you can't see the value of wrestling like that, then I don't know why you're actually putting on tights.
Yeah, 100%. A lot of these guys don't have the fundamentals. But and that brings you to Pierce's question. Can people last an hour? I think probably maybe even the bar's been set a bit too high on what they need to do in a match.
I mean, you can always do a 60-minute match, but one, I don't think the style, you'd burn yourself out about 30 minutes into it. and then you have to start repeating yourself because you've done everything under the sun and there's not really anything left to do.
Yeah.
And like the one with.
Do you think the audience retention would be there though for 60 minutes? Like,
No, not at all. They've taken away, like I don't know. I'm always worried about sounding insulting and having people, I can't believe you said that. But it's like they've trained the audience to have like a 10-minute attention span, maybe 15. Anything other than that, they start looking, they're watching, going, well, this is too long. Why can't we have the next one?
Do you think it's because they've been programmed that it's too long? Because now
definitely.
they're so used to the short matches.
Yeah, it's definitely this like did you see Robbie Eagles and Will Ospreay have their match? Could that have gone more than another 10 minutes?
Look, physically, no. I was sore watching it.
Yeah,
that was so
depends how much more they had.
How long was that match? Like
that was athleticism at its finest. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know how much longer they could have gone. So.
No, see, it's like I was entertained. It was like really entertaining, but it wasn't wrestling.
I think it's a target for a different audience. You know what I mean? It's a different era, but like I've never seen athleticism like that, and I've seen it. I thought it was definitely it's one that you'll remember because it was different. You know what I mean?
Like I'm saying, I'm trying not to put anything negative on it, except that wasn't wrestling because. Like, I think kind of like Jimi Hendrix is like, or Eddie Van Halen's like, he's playing the guitar, but he's not playing guitar because he's so much better than everybody else. Nobody else can follow that. And so they've moved into guitaring into something different than for them. That's like I couldn't pick up a guitar or just go on beside him. It's like I couldn't have had that match with Will Ospreay because that wasn't what I was taught to do.
No, we were taught differently. It was at a different time. The wrestling was. I was even talking to someone just the other day, just about simple wrestling. I said, okay, baby faces shouldn't just shit can people out just randomly. And they looked at me. They go, what? They're going, well, let the heels do it. If the heel goes to do it, the baby face can reverse it. But don't you just randomly do it because you're cheating. And they had no idea that that was an actual thing. And they're going, well. It's a form of cheating, you know what I mean? So
that's why I think,
but it's just different, you know what I mean? They've been trained differently.
Yeah, but see, that's what I was gonna say. That I think that's where today's wrestling falls down. That's why you don't get the huge baby faces or the huge heels, because the baby faces cheat half the time, so you can't really get really behind them because they're a bit dirty. And the heels always want to be like, well, I want to get that little cool pop for doing something cool, and nobody ever just pokes somebody in the eyes and laughs.
Do you think you see that on it? You see that on an international level. Like I was watching NXT for over a year straight, and to do a review podcast on it. And the things that I saw on that, which was, that was certain things. Like I get NXT is developmental for a reason, but there was like one match I saw where it's like they had a women's tag team match. The person tags in. Hits her finish, tags out. The other person comes in, grabs the person by the foot, doesn't do anything, tags the other person in who hit the finish and tagged out. That person comes in, does the cover 1-2. I'm like, what? Like,
they're not trained,
No, yeah. See, it's it's like they're mostly having good matches, but they're only good. And when you take these things out of the equation and do things like, okay, the baby face is going to throw him out first, that makes it stay good instead of that was a great match.
But I think if a
when
match...
I wrestle Rob, it's like we don't have to do half that stuff, but we get a better reaction because it all makes sense. And I'm not afraid to be the guy that says, hey, I hate you. And it's like, yeah, I hate you too. I don't want to be like, I don't want to say, hey, go to the back and say, how much did I sell on merch today? Because I don't want anybody, I want them to spit on merch if I have any. You go, no, that guy's a dickhead. And
I think
we want to see Rob beat him.
I think if a match can, and wrestlers can put on a match which can get to people's emotions, and they can get
Oh, they
people
have.
emotionally invested, then it's a good match. Whether it's a technically good match or not, if you're able to get those people emotionally invested in what you're doing in the ring, I think you've done your job as a performer, because I think that that's what wrestling does. Wrestling plays on people's emotions, and that's where it's like you can be happy, you can be angry, you can be sad, you know what I mean? Like you have to be able to get that emotional reaction from the crowd.
Yeah.
I know it's funny because everybody picks on him and says he's terrible, which he's not the easiest man to work in the world. But Phil Picasso gets the biggest pops out of anybody. When I wrestled him, it's like he was a hero. He'd walk out to his little bird dance song, and kids would be following him, and he'd be shaking their hands and stuff, and he'd get in. Everybody would. He says, "The louder you, what is it? The louder you yell, the harder I jump."
Yeah,
People yell because he's over.
And how it actually works is the boogie woogie Johnny Valiant or Jimmy Valiant mentality. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not just entertainment. That's what you're there for. You're there to entertain. You're different. You do different stuff, and that's what Phil brings. It's just. And that's what we're in. We're in an industry where you can have different types of workers. You know what I mean? And Phil's obviously one of them. And his is very much like that entertainment value. He's there to sell entertainment, not time.
Yeah.
Yes.
But that's the thing. You say Phil, like we're talking Phil Picasso. Is he a fantastic technical wrestler? No,
not at all.
but does he get a good reaction? Is he over with the crowd that he's performing in front of? Yes, because he gets that reaction from him. And I think even people like say over the years, oh, John Cena can't wrestle. Yes, he can. He just doesn't need to go out there and do a 20 to 30 minute technical thing to get over, because all he has to do is come out there, 5-knuckle shuffle, can't see me, and go home. But you look at like The Rock, for example, he got criticized for the similar sort of stuff over the years. Hulk Hogan, all the same sort of stuff. Stone Cold Steve Austin, his hottest run, he was working a very basic style, nowhere near to what he was doing earlier in his career. So
and he was
like the person to really look at that about is the Ultimate Warrior. Everybody criticized the Ultimate Warrior. Who's in the Hall of Fame? Not the person criticizing him. No. Because you see some of those things. Like watch the match when he came out and beat up Honky Tonk for the Intercontinental title.
Oh,
probably
yeah.
They were going nuts. It was probably from a worker's point of view.
Hey, Robbie, you've got
from a worker's point of view, he looks like he'd be difficult to work with.
Your computer's making a noise in the background.
Mine or theirs?
No, Robbie's. I think. But so
way to go, Rob.
Come on, man. You can't be professional for a night, Robbie. It's all
too many messages coming through. Busy man.
That's it. But so tell me, man, like training in the Hart dungeon with Stu Hart and Bruce Hart and the Hart family, tell me about the first time walking into the Hart dungeon and also your time training there.
Well, when I first went there, it's like I'd heard people talk about training up at Stu's house, but I didn't know it was called the dungeon or didn't have the reputation it did. So I think that kind of helped because I was I just turned 19. And so I was in really good shape. So it's like, you want me to run? I can run. You want me to bump and get up? I can bump and get up. I won't blow up. And so it like these days, it's like, I want to train so I could do that warm up again. And I feel like I have done something because Calgary is very mountainous. It's at the foot of the mountains. And so it's probably like a kilometer downhill slope to get to Stu's house. And so we during summer, not during winter usually, but we'd run and we'd go up the hill around. So it's about 2 kilometers. Like the first kilometer was 60 degrees uphill. And so we'd run around the block, the neighborhood. Then we come back and then it was me and a man named Morris Napus. And he was probably 6'5" and 210. So we weren't huge, but he was a big guy compared to me.
You're big guys compared to wrestling these days. Big guys.
Oh, yeah. And so Stu had a big long yard. And so we stand at the end of the year. We come back from the run, and then Bruce said, all right, who's first? And Morris would pick me up on his shoulders and then run down to the other end of the field, do 10 squats and put me down. Then I'd have to pick him up and then run back to where Bruce was, do 10 squats and then put him down. Then we'd go inside and we'd do like rolls, probably like 10 rolls around the outside of the mats. Yeah. And then we'd do 50 bumps. He'd say clothesline, and he'd clothesline me and knock me down. Then I'd get up and he'd slam me, and then he'd hip toss me and he'd do all this stuff. And then he'd say, all right, return the favor. And then I'd have to do it to him. And so like he'd take 50 bumps and I'd pick him up and throw him down and knock him down. And then that was our warm up. It's like if I did that today, it'd be like I could maybe do the run around the hill and that'd be it.
Did you ever get blown up?
Pardon?
Did you get blown up when you first went in there and started training?
A little bit, but like not like lying on the ground that came at the end. But then he'd show us a move or like give the psychology of a clothesline or something. Yeah. And you've seen pictures of the dungeon, like there were no ropes, so it's like, all right, I'd have to throw him in, I'd have like bump off the wall and then run back at him so he could give me a clothesline. And
it's a crazy way to train, but actually it's a good way. It actually teaches you how to mat wrestle.
It really does. And see that's what I was saying about today. It's like they don't really get that stuff where it's like, why do you throw a clothesline? I don't know. How do you do a headlock takeover? I don't know. And they just kind of go through the motions of I'm just gonna stick out my arm. And it's like, no, you want to knock them down with it. But nobody ever talks like, no, apparently it's like I'm so powerful that if you run into my outstretched arm, you just take a bump. It's like, no, you got to look like I'm knocking you down. And I taught I kind of teach at suplex wrestling now. And I was showing them like a headlock takeover. It's like, they went, man, that looks like it sucks. It's like, that's what it's supposed to look like. Like they put them in a rest hold. And it's like, none of these are a rest hold.
The headlock takedown, it hurt them. Like when they said it sucks, like it hurt for them.
Yeah, like it looks like it hurts. Like it didn't hurt, but like I had my elbow, I had my elbow on the ground. I like made room for their body, but I had his head like kind of towards the chin like that, and I was leaning on his chest, not fully, but I was on his chest where it looked like I'm pulling up on his head. I was like, everybody else kind of like, I lie flat on my back, I lie on you, and we just take a rest. It's like that's not what it's supposed to look like. Like. If you see a real fight on this, like that's why I try and tell them, like most of these moves will work on the street. When I used to bounce and I got somebody to headlock takeover, that was it.
Yeah, well, you'd hate to move on to a body slam, wouldn't you? You'd hate to move on to a body slam if that was like an ouch movement.
Yeah, it's like because I used to do that all the time. You've taken a headlock takeover. You hit the ground really fast. And then I cinch up on your head and lean. What am I now? To like 245? I put 245 on your chest and I'm leaning with my body weight on you. And then they try and get out. It's like, you know what? The bad part for you is I have a free hand. And they say, okay, I'll just sit here. Because that move really works.
Yeah.
But people just go, I'm just going to slowly take you over and then we're going to lie there and we'll rest and we'll talk about what the next spot's going to be. And everybody can see it like, well, that's not a dangerous hold. You're just lying on him. And somehow, like, King Kong Bundy wouldn't get over today because people would be slamming him all over the place just to show off what they can do. When, like, 450 pounds is a winning advantage in most fights. Even if you don't know 100%. How to fight, if you're fighting another untrained guy.
Like, Bundy was different, though. He was 6'5". So on TV, he didn't look big because he was standing next to Hogan, but he was abnormally big. Like 6'5" is a big dude.
6'5" is a big man. Big man. Going into, like, we're just talking about the dungeon. What was it like training with Stu Hart? Like, did he get down and was he like, heavily involved with your training?
Not really, because I think he was like 81 when I was there. So. Yeah, he'd kind of learn to take a step backwards and like leave somebody out the front because of, let me show you something. And everybody takes a step back and kind of pushes one guy forward. Like, you come here. And then it's like, let me see your wrist, and then I'm taking your wrist, and then when I get your wrist, I'll move up to your elbow, and then I'll slide you around here, and then all of a sudden it's like he's got his hands locked behind your head. He's under your shoulder, pulling down on your head. It's like, and he's just casually talking to the other guys while you're slowly dying in his arms.
Slowly getting stretched, eh?
Yeah, it's like, can you see all the veins sticking out on his forehead? It's like, yeah. It's like, that's because see how red he's getting? It's like, yes. And can you feel your tongue swelling? Yes, I can. Please let me go. And yeah, so I think he was nice to me because he never really make me like scream like you see on the videotapes of Stu stretching people. But he'd make me. He did. One day I woke up and it's like he had stretched the intercostal muscles of my ribs. It's like I woke up the next day going, I can't breathe. I can't get out of bed. Oh my god, I think I'm gonna die.
So who was did you train at all with like Dynamite or Davey or Brett when they were there? Because I do know that they were there at a time where you were there for a little bit.
Yeah, well,
like period.
Yeah, like after the dungeon, I'd have dinner with them, but yeah, I mean they were wrestling on the road like 300 days a year.
Okay.
So they didn't really come down and take any more bumps for anybody. But I was gonna say after all that in the dungeon, Stu had Bruce had this treadmill that he got from the Oakland Raiders, and he did Tabata training like 30 years ahead of its time. It's like run for 30 seconds, rest for 30 seconds, run for 30 seconds, rest for 20 seconds or 30 seconds, and he had this little belt that he smack you on the back if you caught you. Like he didn't whip you, but it's kind of like, all right, you're dogging it. And so yeah, so at the end of every workout on Sunday, it was like I think we did sets of 8. So I'd run 8 reps, Morris would run 8 reps, I'd run 8 reps, Morris would run 8 reps, and then as soon as somebody threw up, we could go home. And so usually that was Morris, but every once in a while I was like, okay, here I go. But yeah, it's like I was like, that's what I was saying before. It's like I wasn't huge, but when I came out of the dungeon, it's like I looked like not huge, but it's like I wouldn't want to mess with him.
Yeah,
which is the main part of the business, I think.
Yeah, I think so. And like, do you think that, like you were saying, obviously earlier, you know, that guys don't have that or people in wrestling, or some people in wrestling today don't have that intimidation factor. Do you think that that's gone from wrestling today?
Yeah, I think it is. Like Seth Rollins got attacked on Raw a few months ago. Like back in the day, it's like you're not attacking Randy Savage or Paul Orndorff or Bundy or anybody like that. But now it's
for bigger people.
Yeah, it's like like Lex Luger, people like that. It's like I might be able to take him, but if I'm wrong, he really looks like he'd beat the shit out of me.
Yeah,
and like
actually,
no offense to people, but it's like when you're like even me, it's like I'm not the biggest guy in the world, but you put me in a hockey rink, I'm a giant.
Yeah.
Except for the linemen or the front rowers on a rugby or football field, I'm pretty big.
Yeah. So in this day and age, you can see the difference between like the Seth Rollins and the Brock Lesnar's. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Brock
That's
Lesnar.
what I'm saying. It's like
you can see a huge size difference. Like,
yeah.
Did you see?
That's what I'm saying. It's like UFC champion, huge, quick, strong, everything. When do they ever put him over Seth Rollins? He always loses.
Yeah.
Which means like there's got to be a fix in there. Like why? Like it's kind of like
he's a part-timer.
It's kind of like in NRL. It's like, you know, how it's like, it's weird. It's like who just won Penrith?
Yeah.
It's like Penrith just won. They're the champions, but somehow they always lose to, I don't know what, New Zealand or Canberra or somebody. It's like, that's just weird. the champion should, like, the big bad team should always beat up on the little guys unless it's like a once in a lifetime miracle.
Yeah.
But
did you see did you see the interview that Brock Lesnar did where like someone asked him about the Seth Rollins thing and said, what would you say to someone who was going to try and get in and do that to you? And the person couldn't even get the question out. Brock Lesnar goes, I fucking beg you to do it. I beg him to come and try that shit with me.
That's exactly right. It's like when I'm wrestling, it's like, I dare you get, like, did you ever hear about what happened to Bronte with the UWA?
No. Oh, the Bronte brawl? The brawl?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was hilarious because that was me and Pickford were like, you know what? We're actually going to wrestle you. This isn't fake. We're actually going to do what we can do. And those two guys.
A bit of a riot broke out at the actual place.
So this was in Bronte, New South Wales for UW Scarecrow's promotion, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know the full story because I was just there visiting. Like, I was actually wrestling on the card. And these two guys, it was really funny because they were just really drunk. They came in walking like the bushwhackers, walking up to the front row. And then the one guy threw the chair up in the air. And it came down and landed on the guy's head behind him. And so it's like, oh, these guys are really drunk. And then we were all kind of laughing. And Pickford just wrestled. And Frankie Valentine said, you might want to get in there. And I looked, and they were like standing up to Pickford in the ring. So I kind of went, well, I'll go and help out Pickford. And I got in, and the guy charged Pickford. And Pickford got his elbow up in a split second. And the guy was so drunk, he took 3 running steps to Pickford's elbow. And then when his head snapped back, it's like, I'll take that. And I just wrestled him on the ground. And I stretched him. And then Pickford stretched his guy. And then the rest of the locker room came out and got them out of the ring and got them out of the building.
Yeah.
So and then what happened after that? Because you said there was a riot that happened.
I don't know. I left.
to be honest, when I wasn't there, but the Chinese whispers, when I received the actual message, it was a riot. You know what I mean? So that could have been, one of the head of IWA or something saying there was a big riot there. So the way Jason actually tamed. So mentally, I think
I don't know exactly. This is all kind of secondhand, but apparently he had been in a fight earlier in the week and had stitches in his head, and so I started to stretch you, and he's it's really painful, and so you try and walk away from the pain. So apparently he had stitches in his head that he knocked the stitches out of his head, and so when I got up, I had blood from my belly button down my jeans, so it's oh, this doesn't look good. I just picked up a piece of picked up a piece of cardboard, walked out, and went taxi. And I left. So it's I didn't really get the aftermath of what happened. But yeah, the point of that is these days, I think those two guys might have actually kicked ass in the ring because not a lot of the guys are really fighters anymore, they're performers.
Yeah.
And so you really want to have a bit of the mongrel in you. There's if when I was in shape in say 20 years ago, and I said, anybody want to get in and try me? I don't think anybody would, even though a lot of them probably could because I'm not that big. A lot of them could, but the intimidation factor of no, you kind of look mean and you look like you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
But a lot of people kind of they look good. I'm not going to mention any names, but it's they look fantastic, but they don't really look like they could handle themselves if it actually did break out. If they went from, if I went from UFC or wrestling to UFC, I'd probably do just about as good as CM Punk.
It's a different look these days. The wrestlers that we grew up with have more the bodybuilder look. These days, they have more of the MMA type of fit, leaner type of look.
Yeah. See, if I got into UFC, what is it, Octagon? When I was in shape, it looked like I would fit in there.
Yeah.
Well,
I tell you
what,
a
lot of these guys, they're kind of flabby, they're kind of small, where it's
But I think as well, like you don't necessarily have to be, tall and big to look intimidating. I think that there
No.
can be people that are smaller in stature that can
Oh,
be,
yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, and you look
like
at
I said,
people like,
Mad Dog Vachon, he was
Yeah.
short. Yeah, and he was
Or like-
very long,
like even
he was-
even in Australia, like Mad Dog McRae, he's not big, but when he was wrestling back, like when I first came here, or Lobo's not very big at all, but he looks like it's more like you have to look like you go to the gym once in a while.
yeah. Well, even look at like Jonah. Like Jonah's what 5'10", 5'11",
Yeah,
but he's a
built-
thick.
he's
book,
built like a
like,
brick. Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
exactly. Like
He
it's,
looks
exactly,
intimidating.
but-
You know what I mean? He looks intimidating. He's a big dude.
It is, but that's because he looks like he goes to the gym, and like if you take him out of the gym and he weighs what 190, same haircut, same beard, same look, he's not that intimidating. It's
No.
the size that makes you look like, yeah, I don't want to mess with that guy because he looks like he could pick me up and slam me down.
Well, you
Well,
looked pretty much intimidating and in shape when you wrestled Taz in ECW. You had that real lean type of mean look. I'm not sure you're
Yeah.
going for like a kickboxer type of look.
yeah, like a
Yeah,
Muay
kind
Thai.
of. Yeah, exactly. It's like, but see, they kind of put me in what, like, I kind of had like a Muay Thai looking body, and so they gave me a Muay Thai looking gimmick, which makes sense. It's like too many people are like, this is what I want to be, but my gimmick doesn't match how I look.
So you came up with that, or they actually said this is what you're going to do when you went there?
No, they said this is what you're going to do.
Right.
Who did you get the booking through? Was it through Tommy Dreamer or was it through Heyman directly?
I know Chris Jericho.
Okay.
Yeah, he's good. You're friends with him, right?
Yeah, Chris. Yeah, because it's like they both say the Hart family dungeon, but it's like they were in like different places. But he got trained by Keith, and I got trained by Bruce. But we both got trained by the Hart brothers. So, but yeah, he was he was there right when I started too. Like I don't know, he had better connections, so he like went to Mexico and got to Japan, and I mean, and also he was just better than I was. But
so with the match in ECW, like when you went down there, was that supposed to be like a one and done deal, or was there sort of like, okay, let's see how this match goes? Because at the time, sorry,
no, go ahead.
I was just going to say, because at the time, like you went in there, and that was during the time where they were really building up Taz to be like this ultimate fucking killer in ECW. Another guy who's not the biggest guy in the world, but had an intimidating look and gimmick. Also that was the match that you did break your neck in. What are your memories of that match and of ECW?
Well, ECW was pretty good. I got to travel around New York because I don't know. It's like I was until it actually happened. It's like I hope this isn't a rib because I bought my plane ticket, went over to ECW, and like we'll have somebody pick you up at the airport. And it's like, well, if nobody actually picks me up, I'm kind of screwed because I've never been to New York. So I got picked up by Tommy Dreamer, and he drove me around for a little while, and then I went and stayed in Pennsylvania with my grandparents, which is, I don't know, 3-hour bus ride from Philadelphia. And I grew to hate buses on this trip, but I'd drive down. They say like meet us somewhere, and I'd get on the bus and go up there. And it's like hopefully there's somebody there because I don't know anybody here. I don't have all that much money to. But I always got picked up, and I always got driven around. And Tommy Dreamer lent me his black shoot fighting pants so I could look like a shoot fighter. And then the next time Bubba Ray would pick me up, and me and Devon went to a strip club in New York, which was quite the eye-opening experience. And that that PWI Pro Wrestling Illustrated magazine with Bill Apter?
Yep.
But I got to go to their offices. It was like that was really cool. So I got to meet Bill Apter and a few of those guys.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and
like
so they it's kind of a blur all these years later. But I got driven all around all over the place, and then I went to I forget what they call it, the training school, and I kind of went through a couple of paces with the rookie, and then Taz came in and kind of discussed what we were going to do. Like, all right, fine. And then this is a lesson for the young people. He said, I'll just head and arm suplex you. And I just assumed he'd pick me up and turn me and like slam me down on my shoulders. But I didn't find it out till we were actually wrestling that he just went up and like, because like I say, he's not very big. But when I helped him and he got himself under, like, I didn't think I could go right over his head the way I did. I thought he'd have to turn me. Yeah. And I would have done it a different way if I would have known that was going to happen, because like I did. So he was going to turn me and land me on my shoulders, but he just picked me up, threw me straight over, and I landed on my head, which like right up at that moment, it was like I was like really doing well. Like Rob saw the match. It was like people believe that I was a Muay Thai fighter, which I have exactly 0.0 experience in Muay Thai fighting.
Was the like when the moment you landed, did you know like holy shit, I'm in trouble, or was it like what's like did you know that you broke your neck?
Well, see, I kind of got knocked loopy, and it's like I also broke my sternum, which probably saved me from really damaging my neck. Because like when you say break your neck, is kind of like I did break my neck, but it's not like I didn't do like Christopher Reeve and like break my neck where it's like I'm paralyzed, or I just have like a chip out of my vertebrae. It's not like I didn't crack it all the way through and did spinal damage or anything, but I mean, I did enough to injure myself. But when I landed, I drove my chin into my chest, and my chest broke, which gave me more space to flex, and so that's why I didn't really get injured. Like wheeled out on a stretcher and not get up again.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I lied down. Because that's what hurt most, was like I could tell I thought I had done, like I felt like I got stabbed in the chest, which I did. My chin stabbed me. Yeah. So I was more worried about my chest. It was like, well, I'll get up for the finish, and then pressure just lie there and taking the 10 count. But I got up for the finish, and like just that was easy. I just had to wave my hand, and then they lie there until they did their angle. And then it's like kind of with the adrenaline stuff, it's like I got up, it's like, oh, that's.
Did he know? Did he know afterwards?
No.
So he never knew. Still to this day, he doesn't even know what he did.
Well, probably not.
Sold it.
Yeah, because it's like my first match there. It's like I don't want to say, "Oh, I'm injured."
You want a job? Yeah, I get it.
Because then it's like, "Oh, I'll go home then." And then, yeah, because like I don't know what my chest did, but I went took the bus home, and then went on Monday to the gym, and I started doing some squats, and I kind of doing a mid-range heavy squat, and my chest made that sound. It's like, oh. And the guy, like, from all the way over the gym, he was about 20 feet away, went, "Are you all right?" He's like, "Yeah, I think so." Right? Like, I put the weights back and sat down. It's like, oh, and I rubbed my chest, and I had this big lump in my chest where it's like,
and that was only your body weight.
Yeah, so like I dislocated two of my ribs, and like they kind of just popped out and were sitting there.
Oh God.
Jeez.
Yeah,
it sounds like you ended up quite lucky out of the incident. Like you could have been a lot worse.
Oh, yeah, like no, like I don't really have any complaints. It's kind of like for a while, it's kind of like, well, you should have told me you weren't gonna turn me. And then it's like on I didn't ask either. I just kind of went, all right.
You guys didn't have a discussion. So he's got no idea.
Wrestling has these things. Like, look at Sid and his leg. It's like he probably shouldn't have jumped off the ropes the way he did, but he did, and it's kind of like, well, am I going to blame Scott Steiner for that? No, because I did what I did.
Yeah. And it's interesting. Like I speak to a lot of people in the wrestling business, and a wrestling veteran once told me, who was actually trained by Johnny Rods, and he said that Johnny always used to tell him, if you get injured in the ring, it's your own fault. If you get in the ring with someone who's not experienced, you're the one who's making that decision. If you say you're going to do a spot and you get injured, and if it's a dangerous spot, you get injured, it's your own fault because you put yourself in that situation. Do you feel like that's the same sort of sentiment?
That's exactly right. Like, that's why I try and tell these kids, where it's like, it really looks good to do a hurricane run off the top rope, but When you get to my age, like I can still squat. I have a home gym here that I can still lift. I can still bench, and I can still do stuff. But when you get to my age, 30 years from where you are, you're not going to be able to because you're already starting to hack up your knees and elbows, and there's no there's no need for it.
No.
Like Superfly Snuka, like that was good enough. You get 250, you do a nice splash off the top rope like he does. There's no need for a flip or Randy Savage with his elbow. Even though he's only what was he 230? You can tell that's done when he's done because he doesn't need to flip. He doesn't have to do anything fancy. No. If you're going to come off the top rope, land on your feet, and continue to drop down the elbow, that's all you need. And people will believe it and go, holy crap, you crushed him. You don't need to do any rotations because the rotations are going to, like, your knees have to stop that rotation, and your knees aren't really built for that. And, like, that's how Dynamite Kid hurt his back. Is just eventually his back just went, yeah, that last one should have been your last one. I'm giving out on you in this one. Yeah. And that screwed him up for the rest of his life because he just always did. I remember one time he slammed Bruce Hart like in the aisle by the dressing room, went back in the ring, did a flying headbutt but off the top rope to the floor onto concrete. And you could hear him like it sounded like a loud clap when he hit the ground because Bruce moved and he got counted out.
Oh wow!
Heck of a finish.
No, nobody. Was that even recorded? Was that even on like a TV?
Yeah, like on the you could probably find it.
That'd be good to see.
Like he didn't see him land because he dove so far he went out of camera range.
Jesus.
And it's like smack.
That's rough.
And it's like, yeah, it's like you're in control. You don't have to do that. I mean, it looked good. Everybody believed that was a good reason to be counted out. But years and years of doing that takes a toll on you, and you never know when the last one's going to be like, no, I give up. Yeah. Like, probably like Sid's leg. His body just went, nah, I'm not doing that. And I'm going to, instead of doing this cool spot that you're going to do, I'm just going to break here and make you lie here. It's like, I don't, I mean, these things can happen. It's like, you can break your ankle on a suplex or something, or stepping into the ring, you can twist your ankle. So it's like it's just inherently dangerous. I don't know why you have to make it more dangerous than it has to be for you and the other guy.
How long did it take you to recover from the injury?
I don't know. I'll let you know when it happens.
Like, how long until you were back in the ring wrestling?
I don't want to say this answer because it doesn't put me in a really good light. 7 weeks.
Fuck.
I know.
That's crazy.
I'm aware.
Like, is that just down to like being young, dumb, and eager?
That's exactly what it was. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just I I had a taste of it. I want to get back into it, and
CTE concussion wasn't really a thing back then. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So all that stuff, you fall over, you get back up type of mentality. It was the thing to do.
But you know what? It's interesting because like the old style of thinking is like, if you get injured, you just got to like carry on, get through the end of the match. And like, remember about a year or so ago, like Matt Hardy had a match in AEW. He fell and he like knocked himself fucking stupid. And people were saying like, oh, they should have called the match off. They should have done it. They should have, because he was completely fucking inept. Yeah. But like I was saying, like how bad it was that they kept the match going. Matt Hardy's been around for like 20, 30 years. He's probably got that old mentality. He was like, you know what? I'm fucked, but I'll get through this.
Yeah, unless you're physically knocked out, you know, I think, you know, if you can push through, and you're capable, then do it. But yeah, unless you're completely knocked out, I agree. I think it's commendable. And actually, it gives you more as well. It helps you. It helps you.
I think it's kind of like the police when you're a drunk driver. It's like if you're too drunk to drive and you drive anyway, it's like, well, you're not going to stop driving all of a sudden and go, yeah, you know what? I'm probably too drunk to do this. You just keep going. You need somebody to pull up and say, you got to stop now because you'll keep going until you get to where you want to be. So it really is like, I'm not taking any blame off of Matt Hardy, but if you're not loopy, you're just going to do what you do. You actually need somebody to step in and say, yeah, you're not doing this.
And I think that that's where it comes into, like, I think in now where we know so much about concussions and brain trauma and injuries, especially in professional wrestling, that, you know, take away chair shots, just simply landing and bumping on the mat. Like if you don't tuck your chin every second bump, you know what I mean? You're getting that impact to the back of your head where it's sometimes, and I think that this goes into like combat sports fighters as well, where it's like sometimes you need a coach or like another wrestler to save that performer from themselves in a lot of ways, or like a fighter or someone, because they have that mentality. Because it's like you see fighters where they go, you're right, yeah, I'm okay, let me keep going. And that's probably the same way with professional wrestlers, where it's like, you know, this is my moment to perform, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to have it cut short. You know what I mean? Like I want to push through, but sometimes it's like, you know what, you're done tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a fine line because, like, a lot of times, like, you do go, like, I wrestled Rob once and I blew myself up, like, 3 minutes into it. And, like, that was at St. Mary's. And what did we do, like, 20 minutes?
I'm not too sure. I think so.
It was a really, really, really good match. Yeah. And I was blown up for, like, 75% of it. But it's like, you know what? I'm going to push through because everybody's enjoying it. This is really good. And then, like, because if I were I'm blown up, I'm going to go home. Like, we would have had a 5-minute match that wasn't really what people paid for. So it's like, yes. So there's a fine line between pushing through and, like, being dangerous to yourself. Because, yes, like, being blown up is like, I'm not going to.
Oh, look,
like, there's not really any danger of being blown up.
I think there's those type of workers that actually live for that type of stuff, you know, like to push through when you get blown up and like to push the other person. A lot of guys, you know, I know the Benoits and all that, they used to want to push and just, you know, see if they can blow that person up and see if they can keep up with them. And, you know, I always thrived on that stuff as well. You know what I mean? It was just like, if you want to have a long match, I'll have a long match with you. You know what I mean? I'll push. You know, and that's where I think a lot of people don't have. I wrestled one guy one time, and I think I won't mention names because obviously that's what we don't do that these days. But you know, his shoulder went out. You know what I mean? He went for a clothesline, his hot comeback, his shoulder went out. What happened? My shoulder's out. I can't do it. I can't do it. I said, just relax for a sec. You know, I was working him. Can you make a comeback? No, I can't do it. Oh my God, I'm there. I was like going, that's the reason why we can't let every single person do this, because it's also a mental thing. He didn't have it. He could have used his other arm. He could have done something else because he still had his legs. You know what I mean? He couldn't walk, but he was, oh no, I can't. I'm there going, come on, man, use your other arm. You don't physically need to do that. You can hold it down. It's one of those things where I don't know. I feel that if you don't physically have your legs cut off, you can push through. So
yeah, because it's amazing. Like from when I first started in the dungeon, have you seen that photo of me in the dungeon with my chest like almost purple from getting chopped all day?
Yeah.
So it's like it went from that. I always hit the same way. I never got harder. I never got softer. I've always chopped you the way I learned to chop. But from back then, it's like I can stand there smiling with a photo with me and Morris, like just red raw. To now, it's like I hit him with one chop. It's like, oh, don't do that again. That hurts. It's like,
yeah, they're not conditioned. Yeah, they're not conditioned. It's a conditioning thing. So
no, yeah, because like I don't know. I don't know where the fine line is because I know wrestling like so soon after breaking my neck was insane. So you don't want that. But also, you don't want people to go, oh, that I don't want to wrestle him because he chops hard. Like that's just that's like not the way the business. Like, kind of, you can't be on the NRL field if you don't like being tackled.
Yeah. No, I
Oh,
completely.
I can't. I don't know any of it. Yeah, I don't know the
Yeah.
NRL players, but it's like, oh, do I have to play? I don't know, Wendell Saylor. I know he's an older one, but I don't want to play with Wendell Saylor. He tackles too hard. Like, just get off the field. You no longer have a job. I don't care how fast you can run or how many tries you can score. If you're not willing to put your body on the line just a little bit for this, then you don't get to be here.
We get a lot of these days when people chop. You see a lot of people do this. You know, they're like squinting before it happens. It's like, fuck, just leave yourself open. You know what I mean? Or just be natural about it and just let it bang. You know, it won't hurt. It won't hurt when you just relax and don't worry. It doesn't hurt. It hurts. I remember I've tried it, experimented, just clinched and taken a whack, and it fucking killed. When I relaxed, happened nothing.
Yes.
Nothing. Sting, and then that's it.
Like, if you can't take me chopping you, how are you going to take Kala doing a volcano chop?
Exactly. You have to relax with him. You can let it happen. You know, if I've seen people just freak out while they're doing it. You know, they're pretty much going to pass out just from the actual, just the thought of it. You know what I mean? They're like, oh, God, you know.
Like they build it up to be something like much worse than what it is. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. I mean, look, don't get me wrong. It does hurt, but it's like, his one's like a massive sting. Like, and it will go away. Where an injury can occur if you're like doing this, because you get your hands in the way, you know, you get your face in the way, and you know,
get smacked in the mouth.
You get your face in the way,
and then you fuck up the chop. You know what I mean? Because the noise won't happen if you slightly move. You know.
Yeah, and then
so.
I was just gonna say, you get hurt, he gets hurt, and it's like just doesn't sound as good. So you have this. You're both hurt for something that didn't make any impact at all because you screwed it up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what made you move to Australia?
My wife did. Well, she didn't make me move to Australia. I wouldn't put it that way, but
love is in the air.
Yes, yeah. It was funny because just after I started wrestling again in Vancouver, after I hurt my neck, I met. She's my ex-wife now, but I met her, and I don't know, because what was it? June 4th. 1996, I hurt my neck, and I came back, and on, was it March 3rd, I think, the next year I was living in Australia. So I really had a bit of a whirlwind adventure to come to Australia, and I'm surprised I'm actually still here, because I've done a few crazy things in my life, but yeah, it's like if like God forbid something happened to her on the plane, I would have been in Australia for the first time, not knowing anything. Like, I didn't even know anybody in Australia. I knew she had relatives, but I didn't know where they lived, how to contact them. And I had probably $500 in my pocket.
Wow.
So I would have been stranded in Brisbane with $500. But it worked out all right. It's like,
100%.
Yeah.
How long after you... Sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, how long after you got here did you then start like getting in contact with promotions and start wrestling again?
Oh, I
Greg, wasn't it? Wasn't it with Greg? AWF?
Yeah, well, first I like anybody in a new country, I just Googled stuff. And so I found one called Titan Pro Wrestling and asked them, and they wanted me to try out, which kind of I didn't appreciate all that much. So it's like, I'm not trying out. And then I contacted IWA and AWF about the same time. And being from Canada, I had no idea that there was any heat between the two promotions, and so I just worked for both. Whenever they had a chance to use me, I'd come down, because we had a pretty good deal, because my wife worked in the airline industry. She worked for Ansett, which was too bad that didn't last longer, because she could get like half price tickets, and I just fly myself down to Sydney, and then I'd get like half the fare back, and then they pay me my match fee, and I'd go back home and I have a bit of money.
Yeah.
Like, that's another thing that kind of annoys me with wrestling this year, or these days, is when I first started here, I could make more money than I could now. So it's like, with all the influx of great talent and great stuff that they've done, it's like the pays have gone down, which shouldn't be happening.
Well, there's less promotion now. there's less promoters now. There's more people that want to play promoter rather than promoters. So it's just different. Well, especially in Sydney. So.
But do you think it's because there's more talent now? So like there's more people around than what wrestling than what there was back then, and that's why it's like people to be competitive, they have to sort of say, "Hey, I'll wrestle for this amount."
Yes. Well, I don't know. It's like in the NFL, they keep expanding teams, but wages are still going up. You're still getting I'm going to play for $50 million because I'm good.
Yeah.
If you're good, you should get paid like you're good, not And I've been saying this for years and years and years. It's like people say, like I say, if it's up to me, it'd be like, you have to prove to me that you're on a show. I don't care if you're at the school for years and years and years and years. I have no loyalty for, well, he pays his dues. He's got to be on a show. If you're not good enough to be on a show, you don't get to be on a show. Maybe in a battle royal to make up numbers or something. But if you can't do like a solid 10-minute match, I'm not going to put you on the show. But people say, "Oh, I'll do it for free." All right, well, I'll put you on, and then that makes all the guys that actually make money. Well, I if that guy's gonna work for free, it's like that's like trading, I don't know, Wayne Gretzky for me. Well, I'll do it for free. Well, then Wayne, go somewhere else if you want money, because we don't do that. It's like, well, if it's a promotion, isn't that what you're trying to do? Is make money? Like.
And that's what you do.
There are some really good talents here,
but you're paying for the quality.
Getting paid like $100 a match.
When you don't get paid as much, you're paying for the quality, and you don't. If you do it for free, you're paying for the quality. So the quality obviously drops. But that's something that a lot of promoters don't understand, is that you have a guy and you can get him at a certain rate or whatnot for a very easy, cheap deal. You got to expect the quality's not going to be there. You know what I mean?
Oh, 100%.
And they think on such a show-to-show level. It's like, oh, well, you and me could have been the main event, and we would have put on a good match, but that would have cost a couple $100. So we'll put on, I won't mention any names, but we'll put on this guy who wears jeans and a T-shirt against this guy who wears jeans and a T-shirt. They'll do it for free. And then people, that was a show, but I don't want to come back to it again.
Yeah,
because it was average entertainment. The kids kind of went home and went, oh, well, my wife used to come to the shows, and she always thought you were good, but she'd say, like, before intermission, you could really tell they were learning. Your match was good, and Rob's match was good, but the rest were like, it wasn't really great. And so if you weren't on the show and I wasn't on the show, from top to bottom, that show would kind of be like, well, it's entertaining, but I don't want to spend another $20 next month for it. But I don't know, say, like,
but it would depend who the audience
be all the time.
It would depend who the audience is as well, though. If it's just if it's not a hardcore wrestling audience and it's just sort of like a blow-in audience that are just sort of there to, because wrestling, like, you know what I mean, they're there and they see a wrestling show and go there, then they're probably not going to pick up on a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, but like I think it's kind of like boxing. It's like you can just put on the lights for boxing, and if you go in there, you have Muhammad Ali against George Foreman or something like that, people go, that boxing's pretty cool. I'll come back next week. But if they just have two guys throwing jabs and not contact, it's like, well, boxing's not that great.
Yeah.
And so it really depends on the quality of the show, whether people come back or not. And I don't know how that got out of, out of the business, where it's like Rob and I can talk for half an hour and that'll draw on the people. It's like, no, it won't. Because if we go out and we bumble around for the actual match, people go, well, that's with a lot of hype for nothing. I don't know why we came to watch this. Like, I remember we used to, like, that's something they should do again. Like, they always used to set up the WWE would say at intermission, they'd say, and next, like, that probably, like, I remember it's probably one of the biggest pops we ever got. They said, all right, you, like, anybody here at intermission, you can buy tickets for our next show, where the main event will be Rowdy Roddy Piper versus Macho Man Randy Savage. And everybody just went, yes!
Yeah.
And the lineup for the next tickets were huge because we knew who those two were. We knew it was going to be a fight, and we knew we wanted to watch it. But they don't do that anymore, where it's like, well, who's going to fight next week? I don't know. Blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, who's that?
Yeah, I think promoting, they used to have a lot more thought. They had a lot more psychology, a lot more thought process. They had a lot more other guys that were willing to make money. So it was,
Yeah.
Well,
it was a bit,
I think now you look at the WWE, it's not about getting people over. It's about getting the company over. It's about getting WWE over. Like,
correct.
you know,
Yeah.
they had Asuka off for like 3 months or something like that. Okay, cool. Everything just goes on. Seth Rollins Cody Rhodes gets injured, out for 12 months. That's okay. It just moves on. We release someone like a Braun Strowman. That's okay. We got another bunch of people in NXT.
Yeah,
We can just bring straight back up. Like it's
It's
all
the-
about. They're
Yeah,
not
yeah.
interested about making big stars.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but
it's
see,
a
like-
big, it's a machine. That's what it is now. It's a marketing machine. The WWE.
Yeah,
You know,
I don't think that's really a problem though, because they're $1 billion company. They can do it how they want to. But you
100%.
can't take that $1 billion company idea and bring it to Australia and say we'll do the same thing, because you don't have the machine to say, well, if Rock gets injured, we'll just bring in the next guy. Or it's like, I don't know. Like I said, trying not to mention companies, but 5 years after, like most companies are like still the same guys, year after year after year after year. It's like they just kind of rotate, and it's like, well, I've seen all like kind of that. That's kind of what they would do with Brock Lesnar for a while. He
yeah.
smashed everybody. Who do we have to put him up to next? Well, we better start bringing in this guy and that guy. Or sorry, Roman Reigns. It's like we better bring back John Cena. We better bring back Brock Lesnar, because Roman Reigns has gone through our machine, and now we got to start over. But $1 billion company can do that, because they can say, hey, do you want to come back for $500,000 and do this show? It's like, sure. And then they get the pop from the crowd. Everybody wants to see if that happens, but it's like, here it's like, well, who are you going to get going to pop the crowd? Nobody.
Yeah.
There's nobody in Australia that pops the crowd as, hey, I know that guy. This is going to be fantastic.
No, you got to go out and work for it. It's always that. Unless you're working on a regular venue, you got to go out and work for it. If you're in a different place all the time, you got to really put yourself
I
out.
told Mark that like when I first moved here 20 years ago. It's like you need a home of like the sportatorium is the WCCW. The pavilion was Stampede. The Garden was New York. The Omni was WCW.
Yeah, you're right.
You need a home of your wrestling, and then like have like, even if it's only like every 3 weeks, have a home based show in Sydney at the Roundhouse. The Roundhouse was a good place. Every 3 weeks, have a show at the Roundhouse that people have built up. You can advertise that, and then go off and say, I don't know, we can have battle royals, and the main event turns into a tag team after intermission. We can do that all over the country, like they did for 20 years. But you do need a home of this is where we're going to wrestle.
Like a home based thing, like how the ECW arena and
yeah. Because like, I don't know, how long have I been wrestling in Australia? 20 years or something?
Yeah, I think so.
Newcastle, Sydney, Tamworth, anywhere. Seagulls. I wrestled Gloucester. But you're putting my name on any of those buildings, they're gonna say, who's that?
Yeah.
And you're not like, my name doesn't draw anything.
Yeah, I'm the same.
Yeah, like when they put you against me and we have like a really good match and say, well, next month we're gonna come back and we're gonna have a rematch where there will be a winner, that might draw a couple extra people. And then you have a couple really good matches, and the kids go, Daddy, I really like, that's what I did like when the AWA came. That was awesome. Can we go again?
Yeah.
And then those kids tell their kids at school, and maybe you get 5 families coming. Maybe that dad brings 3 kids instead of 1. And a year later, instead of having 150, you have 500.
And it's you're
500.
just growing your audience slowly by putting on quality.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like 500 people at a wrestling match, even today. Once a month, 500 people, you make money.
I was going to say, Jason.
You're not going to be the WWE machine, but you'll make money.
Well, speaking of the WWE, when you worked against the Undertaker, how many people were actually in attendance that day?
21,000 maybe.
Wow, that's a good achievement.
Yeah, see, the cool part was that was the same arena that I saw Jim Brunzell and Nick Bockwinkel wrestle like 11 years before. So it's like, hey, I made it. So I didn't make a whole ton of money or anything, but it's like I achieved most of my dreams in wrestling.
Hey,
it's like I said, like I didn't like. I want to sell out the Korakuen Hall in Japan. It's like I didn't really have dreams like that, but it's like I want to wrestle in the Winnipeg Arena. I want to wrestle in the Stampede Pavilion. I want to wrestle in the States. I want to. So yeah, it's like technically, it's like I know it's not exactly true but technically, I semi-main evented a WWE show.
Yeah,
because there was only one match on there's only one match on after mine, and that was the main event. So I was semi-main event.
Yeah, well, look, you you obviously have a good resume of people that you've worked with, and a long list of companies, reputable companies, obviously. So I think you should be pretty happy with what you've achieved.
Oh.
Obviously, everybody wants to make millions and millions of dollars, but sometimes it's just not realistic when you're in the business and you're traveling the indies.
I think it's like anything, like any business. You got like, I wanted like, if I played basketball, I'd love to have the career of Michael Jordan, but that really happens to Michael Jordan. That's about it. But if your dream is to play basketball, playing in the NBL for like, what is it, NBL? What's the Australian one?
Yeah, NBL.
Yeah, if you make some money playing basketball in Australia, why is that any less of a dream than having $100 million? I mean, yeah, it's like I'd like to win the lottery. I might not win what is it tonight, $30 million? But if I win 30,000 tomorrow, I'll be happy with that. That's a good win.
Sure, but I'd be a lot happier. I'd be a lot happier winning 30 million than winning 30,000.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I mean, there's always something better that could have happened.
Sure.
But like I got to wrestle for 30 years and people were entertained for me for like saying, that was really good. Yeah. I really appreciate what you've done. And which is like kind of like, yeah, it's like the money's not secondary, but it's like, I wanted to entertain. I wanted the people to feel like I felt when I was 11 after watching Jim Brunzell and Nick Bockwinkel. That's kind of what I wanted. If I get money for that, that's icing on the cake. But the actual wrestling and entertaining people is the cake. And I think it's just other people going, well, like not naming names, but there's a few people that kind of get jealous where it's like, well, I'm not listening to you because you didn't do anything. It's like, yeah, I did. I did a lot of things which are really cool. And like some of them are secondary, but like wasn't even me, but it's like I got to watch Bret Hart win his first world title live. I was in the arena because I was wrestling that night.
That's amazing.
Like that. Yeah, so it's like that. Like only 20,000 people can say that. Yeah, and I was one of them. I got to.
That's the thing, man. You've been able to have a lifetime of experiences, in this world of professional wrestling, and you know what I mean. And you've had a lot of fun doing it. And a lot of great experiences in a lot of great places, man. So I think that, overall, like you can look back at your career and be happy with what you've been able to do. And as you said, you'll be able to connect with people through professional wrestling and give people those experiences and those moments that they're going to remember as well.
Yeah, that's right. It's like I like to be on my own private island with my millions of dollars, but I don't get that, but I like the rest of it is like, why am I gonna be upset that I don't have $1 million when I have so many other good memories? Like the $1 million would just be an extra.
Yeah,
And
I actually remember seeing you in a match in the first time I saw you wrestle was against Michael Permunico, who wrestled as Billy Cole in a ladder match.
yeah,
And I think that was for the first IWA Trans Tasman title.
yeah,
Great match. Great match. I remember that too.
And you know what was funny? I think I met Billy Cole like maybe 10 minutes before then, and we went over the finish.
Yeah, you guys winged it. It was pretty good. You guys did a great job.
It was since I was coming out of the crowd, like I dressed into the bathroom, and so like
I remember the
rail. It's like we really didn't have any idea of what we were gonna do, except for how we were gonna finish it.
I thought it was a clever finish. I mean, I haven't seen it, but I'm sure you must have slinged it from somewhere where obviously you got trapped underneath the ladder and Billy Cole was running up it. So I
did steal it from somebody, but
that's the one where Billy Cole busted his lip on the ladder. Yeah, he lost that. What's that little piece of skin that you lose?
I don't know what that's called, but the inside of it holds your it holds your lip to your top lip.
You see his mouth just hit the ladder and just puts his hand.
I remember that. Yeah.
That was nuts. I'm glad it didn't happen to me, and I'm sorry it happened to him, but that really worked out well. So that added so much realism to the match because everybody saw that and went, "Oh, that must have really hurt."
Well,
and then when he started to bleed, it's like, yeah, that's really. And like I said, it's like we kind of. He didn't say, "Oh, my face, we got to go home." It's like, no, we just worked that into the match, and it's like, I just stayed away from his face and let him bleed.
Well, to be honest, that was the first time I ever met you, and I never seen any of your work. And from what I saw, I was like, wow, that's really impressive. You could just tell you guys were pros out there. You know what I mean? It was really it was a hell of a match. Like, it was the main, right?
No, it wasn't.
It wasn't even the main.
That was Mark Mercedes, Dave Freely, and Phil for the main.
Yeah, that was for the heavyweight title. And that match was before Intermission, I believe, from memory.
Yes.
Like just before Intermission.
The show.
Yeah. And see, like
that's
what I'm saying. It's like,
show.
Yeah.
Yeah, and see, like, I have terrible knees. And it's like I really have no desire to throw myself off. What was I then? Like 30, I think I was early 30s. My neck was like, I've always had to be careful of my neck after I hurt it.
Yeah.
It's like I don't have any desire to fall off great heights or jump down on my knees, but so it's like there was no, except for Billy Cole's moonsault, but I got out of the way. That was just bad luck that he hurt himself. But it's like there's no over the top rope to the floor or big splat from 10 feet up in the air. It's just we'll just climb up halfway up the ladder and I'll pull you back down. And you can just hop back down.
Didn't Billy Cole jump from the top rope and land on you from the outside onto
that we didn't really call that because one of those ones where it's hard to be a prop comic when the prop doesn't do what it's supposed to do. But I was supposed to.
It did enough because I remember it. So he obviously did enough.
You too.
Yeah, but he was supposed to backdrop me over the top rope, and I was supposed to go through the table.
Yeah, you bounced off it. You know, you went heavy enough.
I bounced right off it. It's like, oh well, crap. Well, and then that's one thing in wrestling where it's like, you don't tease something for 15 minutes and then not do it.
Yeah.
You know what's funny is he actually came up with the concept to actually backdrop him on the outside like that, which was quite cool because people mainly don't do that as much anymore. They'll try and do you put the thing in the corner and then you'll try and spear it and then they'll put the table up and off the top or something. Just you know what I mean? They're not that creative, which was kind of cool. I actually think that if you pulled that off, that would have been pretty great.
Yeah, and like I said, it's like we teased it for so long, and it probably would have worked if I was more willing to just take a backdrop on it and put my full weight through it. So I tried to kick through it because it's I don't want to fall from 10 feet and crack through a table into concrete with my neck and stuff because that would be unnecessarily dangerous. So I just tried to kick it. It's like, nope. And then it's like, well, and then it's funny because he kind of turned me the wrong way. So it's like, oh no. You're I'm trying to hold the back of my head. It's like, no, that won't work. And so when he splashed me through the table, it's like, boy, I hit the ground really hard anyway. It's like, that would have been better if I would have just done it the other way. But see, and then that fed into the finish where it's like, I still look good because I got up and I stopped him from going up. And then like, well, how do I stop this guy? Because he just keeps getting up after everything, which is kind of what I wanted.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, I'll just hold him down under the ladder and then I can't get up. And it's like, he beat me, but it leads for more because it's like, well, I wasn't flat on my back out cold while he grabbed the ladder off of me. And I didn't have to take I don't know, a suplex off the top to the floor where it's like, all right, now I have time to get it. It's like, no, just take your time. I'll be here under the ladder, kicking and screaming and whining. It's like it's a smart finish, but it's still entertaining. Where it's like nobody goes, oh well, I got like I don't know, maybe they would these days, but it's like nobody was like, oh well, you didn't really use the ladder. There was no huge bumps or anything. I feel ripped off.
Oh, he definitely went off. It was actually good. It was actually really good and entertaining to watch. So.
Oh, 100%. I was just going to say, we are almost at the 1 hour and 25 minute mark. It's almost time for us to start wrapping up. But Jason, like throughout your career, you know, for you, what would you say would be like the defining moment for you, which you can look back and say, you know what, this is my proudest moment in the business?
I don't know. It's like, I never try to go like I'm proud because this is what I did. It's like I've had lots of enjoyable moments. Like I had a tumor operation a while ago, and I came back and like pretty much used Rob and Tyson Gibbs to get back in shape, and that was great fun. Just kind of Tyson Gibbs was like just starting out, and they kind of, I always say, I played Booker T to his Triple H and just put him over all over the place and tried to teach him. So it's like I kind of like, I don't take credit, but like I'm kind of proud of seeing how good of a wrestler he's become, that with an attitude of like I'm doing it right, because he looks like he works out. He wrestles quite simply and effectively, and he gets over, which I'm so it's like I'm not taking credit for it, but I'm kind of proud of that, and I'm proud of like a few, I don't know, bumps and bruises aside. It's like I've never really hurt anybody where it's like, oh, I've never broken anybody's leg or had somebody go down and not be able to get back up after I've wrestled them. And so I'm pretty proud of that, where I've learned pretty well to be safe to everybody. And I can, I don't know, from like 7 Foot Thunder to B-Boy, I can have a match with anybody, which kind of makes me makes me happy with myself. I think just being able to entertain with anybody that they give me is, and like I said, that's I'm happy with that, but that's more Bruce and my training than me myself. I'm a good listener.
Absolutely. But guys, it is that time for us to wrap it up. Jason, thank you so much for joining us on this episode. Robbie, thank you for guest hosting this episode. It's great to have you both on for this conversation, and 90 minutes has gone so quickly. So we're going to have to do it again. I think next time we should include Mark Mercedes in this one. I reckon the four of us could be able to have a pretty entertaining conversation. But Jason, where can everyone follow you on social media and keep in contact with you?
The local pub.
Yeah, I do my local pub. It's like right there across my driveway. I don't know. I'm on Facebook, but you'd have to look for my picture on it. I don't really.
So just type in Jason Helton. You'll find it.
I'm not sure what the. I'm not really into promoting myself anymore. I just go on my merry way. So I don't really know the names of anything.
Good. Well, look, Jason, thank you very much for your time. Gentlemen, it's been a great conversation. I appreciate you guys coming on. Guys, this has been Shooting the Shit Uncensored. We appreciate you all for tuning in. Please make sure to like, share, subscribe, tap that little red button, and tap in to Shooting the Shit Uncensored. We'll see you again very, very soon. Take care. All the best. Peace.